I swear, if you're about to read a rulebook, I'm gonna be pretty mad because that's my job. I'm Ryan from How I Roll, and in this Rip Up the Rules, I'm gonna teach you how to set up and play flip chess so that you can flip your way to victory in this clever little chess meets hidden info battle. Flip Chess is designed and published by Jarno Siekkinen, who helped sponsor this video. It's a tactical card flipping strategy game for 2 to 4 players that plays in about 15 to 30 minutes. There's always room at the table for you, so come on over and let's dig into this epic chess duel together. Flip chess takes classic chess movement and flips it upside down, literally. You and your opponents place your meeples on a grid of face-down character cards, which will eventually be flipped and change the effects and abilities of your meeples. You'll need to expertly navigate this ever-changing landscape in order to emerge victorious. Think you've got what it takes to outflip and outmaneuver your opponent? We'll see. The core of this game is a 2-player battle, but there are some variants, including options for more players. I'm going to teach you the 2-player mode right now and circle back to the variants at the end. Here's how you set up the game. First, decide whether you want to play on the full 6x6 grid or the smaller 5x5 grid for a quicker game. In this video, I'm setting up the full 6x6 grid, so I'll shuffle all 36 cards and form that grid face down on the table. If I had chosen 5x5, I would simply remove 6 pawns and one of each other card from the deck. In either case, each player places 1 meeple on each of the cards in the 2 rows nearest them. So this is what the full 6x6 setup would look like. And that's it. It's about one of the quickest games to set up ever. The player with the blue meeples is the starting player and goes first. Players take turns one after another until the game end is triggered. On your turn, you'll take 2 simple steps. 1, move a meeple, and 2, flip 1 face down card face up if possible. Let me show you how each of these steps work. First, step 1, move one of your meeples. A meeple moves 1 space up, down, left, or right, but never diagonally, and you can't use this move to land on a card that already has a meeple on it, regardless of who it belongs to. If you land on a face down card, your movement stops. However, if you land on a face-up card, you move your meeple once more based on the power of that card. We'll come back to these powers in just a minute. And in step 2, you flip 1 face-down card face up. You can choose any card on the table as long as it doesn't have a meeple on it. And this card flip is mandatory as long as it's possible. I mean, flip is literally in the name of the game, so you can't just not flip. This means that if there's at least 1 face-down card on the table without a meeple on it, you gotta flip. For example, after moving this meeple here, I could choose to flip this card face up since it doesn't have a meeple on it. The game continues with players taking turns back and forth, flipping cards, capturing each other's pieces until one of these end game conditions is met. If all of the cards have been flipped face up and one of the players controls a majority of the king cards, they immediately win. This doesn't mean a majority of all the kings on the table, but simply that they control more kings than their opponent. If there's a tie between the players, continue playing until one player has more. If one player has captured all of their opponent's meeples, that player wins and the losing player instantly mourns the loss of all their meeples. Or if one of the players can no longer move any of their meeples, the game ends and that player loses, giving the victory to their opponent. And that's it. Gameplay is pretty simple and straightforward. However, the real twist to this game comes from the face-up cards in the grid. During step 1 of your turn, when you move your meeple, if it lands on a face-up card, it immediately takes on the characteristics of that chess piece and moves again accordingly. Let me break these down for you. If you land on a pawn, you immediately move your meeple exactly 1 space forward in the same direction it was already moving. To capture an opponent's piece using a pawn, you must move 1 space diagonally forward. For example, if I move my meeple onto this card, I would only have the option to move 1 space forward to here as there's no piece for me to capture diagonally. However, with this pawn, I could either move forward or capture an opponent's piece here or here. When you land on a rook, you can travel in a straight vertical or horizontal line as far as you'd like without traveling through other meeples. If the card you land on has an opponent's meeple, you capture it and remove it from the board. So, using this rook, I could move to any of these spaces or any of these spaces. Using this one, I could travel to any of these spaces and could even capture this piece. Landing on a knight lets you move in an L-shaped pattern that is either 2 spaces in a straight line followed by a 1 space move at a 90-degree angle to that straight line, or else 1 space in a straight line and then 2 spaces at a 90-degree angle to that line. And if you land on an opponent's piece, you capture it. Now the knight is unique from the other characters in 2 ways. First off, the movement shape is actually calculated from your meeple's position at the start of your turn before your initial move and is just a continuation of that. And it's also the only piece that can cause your meeple to jump over or move through others on the board. For example, if I land on this knight card, I could move in this L shape or this one or more. And if I did this move, I would capture this piece. The bishop moves your meeple exactly like the rook, except in a diagonal line instead of a vertical or horizontal line. You can move as far as you'd like without going through other meeples, and if you land on a space with an opponent, you kick them off. Landing on this bishop would allow me to move like this, or even here to crush my foe. And the almighty queen combines the abilities of the rook and the bishop and lets you move in a straight line in any direction you'd like, as far as you'd like. She's a real girl boss. Again, if you land on an opponent's meeple, then it's goodbye to that poor little meeple. And lastly, the king. The king's not very useful for movement, but it's a primary key to victory. If you land on a king, you can move one space in any direction and even capture an opponent's piece if you land on it. The king card is also unique because it's the only card that you can move onto and decide to stay on. It doesn't make for a very exciting turn, but since controlling kings is one of the main ways to win, this can be a really good call to make at certain points in the game. And that's how all of the movement works. Now, just an important note. On your turn, you move your meeple one space left, right, up, or down. And if you land on a face-up card, you trigger only that one card that you land on and no other cards. There aren't crazy chaining combos like that. Otherwise, the game might never end. You only ever activate one of these face-up character cards in a turn. Also, no matter what face-up piece you land on, your new movement can never cause you to backtrack toward the space you entered that card from. You always have to choose a new direction. And with that, you now know how everything works on a turn of flip chess. You move your meeple one space, and if it lands on a face-up card, you move again according to that chess piece's ability. If one of these cards causes you to land on the same space as an opponent's meeple, you immediately capture it and remove it. Once your movement is done, you flip a face-down card that doesn't have a meeple on it face up if one is available. Keep doing this until all cards are flipped and one player controls the majority of kings, or one player has captured all of the other player's pieces, or one player can't move on their turn. At this point, the loser should smile and give the winner a congratulatory handshake and say, "Well played," while secretly lamenting their life choices inside. If you want to add a third player to this game, the only change that happens is during setup. Lay out the 6x6 grid of cards and give 6 meeples to each player in the color of their choice. Randomly select a first player and they place a meeple onto any face down card and then flip another card face up. Continue doing this one player after another in clockwise order, always flipping a card that doesn't have a meeple on it until all 18 meeples have been placed. From there, you play the game with all the same rules as a 2-player game, with the exception that when a player can no longer make a move on their turn, they're instantly eliminated and remove all of their meeples from the board. A player wins a game if all of the cards are face up and they control the majority of the kings, or if they have eliminated their 2 opponents. For a 4-player game, set up the 6x6 grid of cards and each player places 6 meeples in a corner like this. The game is played in the exact same way, with the players taking turns in clockwise order. The elimination rule for not being able to move and the victory conditions are the same as in the 3-player version. And finally, if you really want to spice things up, no matter what your player count is, you can add in these bomb cards, which add a serious plot twist to the game. You can add 1 to 4 of these to the deck before building the grid. For each one that you add in, remove a pawn. And each bomb you put in adds increasing amounts of chaos. So if you decide to go for a full send and put in 4, watch out. Things are going to get wild. Anytime one of these cards is flipped, it eliminates any meeples on the 8 cards surrounding it, regardless of who flipped it. So if this bomb is flipped here, all of these meeples would go bye-bye. These cards are pretty crazy and can lead to instant wins and losses. Once a bomb has been flipped and blown people to smithereens, it no longer has any effect and players can safely pass through it. If you move onto it, you don't move again and just stay there. And that's how you play flip chess. See? I told you didn't need that silly rule book. It's chess with hidden information, surprise flips, and tense tactical decisions where one bad flip can flip the entire game. I hope you have an awesome time playing flip chess and that you found this video helpful. If so, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that I can see you around all the time. If you've got any questions about the game or need a rules clarification, drop a comment below and you'll hear right back from me. I've linked the Board Game Geek page for flip chess in the description below, so you can click there to discover even more about this game. Thanks for rolling with me through another Rip Up the Rules. It really means a lot. Can't wait to see you next time.